everybody. Thank you for joining me, Krista, with Imagine That Scrapbooks and Gifts for our ITTV Presents Try It Out Thursdays, week number 19. And in this week, what we're going to be working with is embossing folders. It's a dry embossing technique that we're going to be doing. And this one here, we are going to make a masculine retirement card. But of course, embossing can be used for all sorts of different themes. They're great on cards and scrapbook pages, altered arts, mini albums, all sorts of different fun things. They're a great way to add texture and dimension to all of your projects. So this is what we're going to be doing today, and they're a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. But before we get started on making this card, I do need to pick a winner from last week's ITTV week number 18, and last week's winner was Miss Shelley Griffin Law. If you'll please email us at imaginethatscrapbooks@yahoo.com to claim your prize, we'll make sure we get it out to you. And if you would like to be a winner of our ITTV Presents, make sure you leave a comment on Facebook or on YouTube on this week's video so you can be a winner. We'll pick our winner next week, so make sure you tune in each week. All right, let's go get started. Okay, so for today's card, we're going to actually be making a masculine card using a really great technique. I love dry embossing. Now, there are two different types of embossing. There's dry embossing and then heat embossing. Dry embossing normally means you're either using a stylus or some sort of tool. Heat embossing means you're normally using an ink pad, an embossing powder, and normally a stamp. Well, for this one, embossing, of course, just means to give a raised edge. So we're going to be doing a dry embossing. Here are, of course, the same embossing template that I'm going to be using. I have given myself different depths with the amount of layers that I've added to the embossing folder. So we're going to show you how you're going to achieve this look here. So what I've got here is my Texture Boutique by Sizzix. I absolutely just love this little tool. It's just a cute little purse. This tool does only do embossing. So if you want to do die cuts or things like that, this one will not be the tool for you. But I love it because it's great, it's simple, it's easy, it's portable, and it'll give that great embossing look. So what we're going to be using is our two plates, our embossing folder, and then a little spacer plate. Now the great thing about the Texture Boutique is it does tell you exactly how to make your sandwich. If you're going to be embossing directly onto your folded card, then you're going to just use your folder, your card, and your two plates, run it through, just like that. We are going to be using just a piece of cardstock, so we're going to need our two plates, our folder, and our cardstock, and then a spacer plate. Now you can do it without that spacer plate, and that will give you the different depths, like this one here. This one I used the spacer plate, which gave me a deeper embossed. This one here I did not use the spacer plate, so you can see it just gave me a little bit lighter of a texture. What that spacer plate's going to do is allow for more pressure to push the paper down and up into the embossing folder. Now an embossing folder, if you're not familiar with that, is a thing like this, and it is just that. It's a plastic folder that you're going to place your paper into, close, and then going to emboss. There are raised and depressed edges, which is what's going to allow the paper to literally form around that to give you your embossed technique. So what we're going to do is take our folder, take our piece of paper, and sandwich it in there. Then I'm going to take my plate, and I want this one to have a really deep emboss, so I'm going to put my spacer, then my folder, and then my plate. A lot of times you'll hear us refer to this as our sandwich, so I've made my sandwich now. Now I'm going to put it into my Texture Boutique, and I'm going to just push it in a little until it catches, and then just roll it all the way through. Alright, and it should be coming out on the other end. Move that out of the way. And here we have our embossed cardstock. So what I'm going to do is actually going to continue to sand it so it gives it that little bit of color dimension. The one thing is, you can see here I'm working on my nonstick craft mat. You do not want to sand onto a nonstick craft mat. So I have just a piece of scrap paper, copy paper, whatever it is that you want to use. You're going to use this as a mat for you to sand on. We're just going to take a sanding blocker, emery style board. We're just going to sand it. And because I'm using a white core cardstock here, that is allowing the color or the white core to show through. And you don't have to be precise. We're just doing this to give it a little bit of a distressed look. And it allows the embossed pattern to show up a little bit more. Okay, so remove that off to the side. And there we have our embossed piece of cardstock. Just add some great texture, dimension, pattern, depth to your card with a very simple, very easy technique. All right, so now let's build our card. We're gonna put down our mat first, or my base. And get it on there straight. Okay. And because I'm making a masculine card, I'm actually going to be building my card a little bit different. Let's see, I just lost my piece. Where'd it go? There it is. Aha. I'm going to figure out my placement first, and then I'm going to do some wrapping techniques. Could have inserted a really bad joke there because Krista cannot wrap, obviously. It was going to break out in a little wrap, but good thing I didn't, because, yeah, that would have just been bad. All right, so I think this is how we're going to make the card, but I do want to use a retirement sentiment here, and before I start building it, I'm going to put the sentiment on there, as well as wrap my twine around. So I'm going to put my placement down first. Okay. And I've already cut my twine. And those of you that watch this with me regularly know that I don't like to wrap twine all the way around my cardstock. I kind of feel it's a waste. So we're just going to put a zot, attach the edge of our twine. Okay, so I've attached my zot to the other side. We're going to wrap our twine around. Now you want to keep it a little bit loose, otherwise if you pull it too tight, it's going to actually cause your cardstock to kind of bow, and I'll show you what I mean. So here I've got my twine, and if I wrap it too tight, you can see what it's going to do there. So you want to do it a little bit loose to kind of give it that little bit of a natural fall. We're going to do the same thing with the other piece. But since I'm using really thick twine, we're going to go ahead and add another zot. And we're going to have this one kind of crisscross it, so I'm going to do the zots on opposite sides. I love using twine like this on a masculine card. I think it just kind of adds just a little bit more masculinity to it. I love working with ribbon, but I just don't feel that ribbon's really always a good thing for a masculine card. Alright, I have these really fun game pieces by Tim Holtz. So we're going to just pop those through. We're going to build them. I've got my brad and a small game piece. And my larger one. We're going to actually stick it through the twine. Like so. Open it up. Then I always push my brad onto a flat surface, whether it be my craft table or a mat, and that just helps open it rest the way and kind of flatten it out a little bit. Alright, so I think that's about how I want it to go, so let's actually finish building our card. Now I'm using, as you can see, a garden pattern, but I didn't want to use this pattern on the card. I wanted the black. So always make sure you check the opposite side of your pattern papers, because sometimes there's a really great solid on the back of a card that maybe, or paper that you've already used for something else, and you've got those scraps left over. So don't judge it just because the one side is something. So don't forget to always check those opposite sides. Alright. And I think we're going to pop this up a little bit. Sorry, you guys get to follow me in a little bit of my creative madness and chaos that kind of goes on. Sometimes I know a lot of people know exactly what the card's going to look like when they start building it. Me, I kind of just go with it and change things up, add things here and there. So I might have an idea of a card when I start, but 9 times out of 10 it never ends up looking like the way I envisioned. Normally it's better. Normally. Alright, so we're just going to place that right there. And there we go. A masculine retirement card using embossing folders. Well, I hope you guys had fun, and I'll see you next week. But before I sign off, don't forget this week's coupon code is embossing folders. Again, the coupon code is embossing folders. That's available in store or online. Also, don't forget to pick up this week's kit and leave a comment at the end of the video for your chance to win a prize next week. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.